Okay, my last video, it was titled Legal Reform. It was just talking about the page I do, teaching people about laws that aren't spoken of, used, or enforced. Laws that you can actually use against the people who perpetrated the fraud against you in a court of law, which is called a conspiracy against rights under the color of law, which is pretty normal in every court you go. And this conspiracy evolves through effective assistance of counsel guaranteed in the Sixth Amendment. And effective assistance of counsel is described in the Rules of Professional Conduct and the Code of Judicial Conduct. Okay, any violations of the rules or codes is mandatory reporting. Rule 8.3, reporting professional misconduct. Okay, I told you about a lawyer going on there that he sues people for violating your constitutional rights. He's all too familiar with malicious prosecution, government corruption, and he sues for that, and he wins. And it's an easy win because it's easy to prove a conspiracy to deprive rights under the color of law, because nobody abides by the rules or the codes in a court of law. And mandatory rule 8.3 tells you clearly reporting professional misconduct is mandatory. So let's go through that real quick, okay? And then we're going to go through some of the questions. See, this is from the ABA, Model Rules of Professional Conduct. It's the federal version of the Rules of Professional Conduct, which is the standard for every state. But some states decided to remove some rules, which is depriving you full access to due process. Now, the Rules of Professional Conduct clearly state in the preamble, whatever is done in the legal system must be in the public interest and not in the interest of the bar or a parochial interest. Okay, Rule 8.3, reporting professional misconduct. Maintaining the integrity of the profession. Self-regulation of the legal profession requires that members of the profession initiate disciplinary investigation when they know of a violation of the rules of professional conduct. Remember, I told you it's impossible to violate just one rule. So violating just one rule, it's mandatory to report. Multiple rules, nobody's doing it. And that's where I come into play, because I want to teach you all the laws, because the Rules of Professional Conduct and the Code of Judicial Conduct are laws. Is that you're never going to hear a lawyer or judge speak about it. They're not going to tell you they're laws. They're not going to tell you that these are mandatory laws. Violating any of these laws is violating the oath, because they all take an oath to the Constitution, and the Constitution was written to serve and protect you from people like this that operate under the color of law. If you check the Declaration of Independence, that's what why the revolution was started. Okay, so basically, since the revolution ended, we replaced the monarchy with politicians, but politicians, instead of doing what they're supposed to do by law, which is in the basic obligations of public service, they don't. And you've seen that. How many politicians have gotten rich being politicians? It's because they're selling out to corporate interests, and that's illegal. It clearly states in the Rule of Professional Conduct, all laws must be created in the public interest, not in the interest of the bar. And, people make a lot of money violating the rules. And that's why people do judge shopping. Because, through nepotism, through their, the colleges they went to, legacy contacts, sororities, fraternities, it's the nepotism. People I see complain about nepotism and everything, and nobody's complaining about the nepotism in the legal system or in politics. Okay, members of the profession initiate initiate disciplinary investigation when they know a violation of the rules of professional conduct. Lawyers have a similar obligation with respect to judicial misconduct. Remember, I told you, reporting misconduct is mandatory in the rules and the codes. An apparently isolated violation may indicate a pattern of misconduct that only a disciplinary investigation can uncover. Reporting a violation is especially important where the victim is unlikely to discover the offense, meaning you're the victim. You're the person that hired a lawyer, and, the lawyer not allowing you to give informed consent, because in order for you to give informed consent, you need reasonable information to make an informed decision to give informed consent. And how can you give informed consent if you don't know the legal obligations of all lawyers and judges in a court of law? And if you don't know them, how do you know that they're breaking the law in a court of law? So that's what I'm teaching you about, all the laws being broken in a court of law. And the only way you'll be able to figure that out for yourself is read the rules of professional conduct and the Code of Judicial Conduct. A report about misconduct is not required where it would involve violation of Rule 1.6. However, a lawyer should encourage a client to consent to disclosure when prosecution will not substantially prejudice the client's interest. Okay, if a lawyer were obligated to report every violation of rules, the failure to report any violation would itself be a professional offense. Such a requirement exists in many jurisdictions, proved to be unenforceable because nobody's reporting anybody. Okay? So it's up to you. It's up to you. The rules limits reporting obligation to the offense of self-regulating profession must be vigorously endeavored to prevent. Okay, people, I'm going to stop there and go back, but I'm just showing you that reporting misconduct is mandatory. People say, why is it important to report misconduct? Misconduct plays an essential role in maintaining transparency, integrity, and accountability within the obligations, especially in the financial sector. Now remember, the rules of professional conduct apply to every lawyer and every judge, and they will lie to you about that. Why do employers not report misconduct? Employees not report fear of retaliation and lack of impartiality. One of the primary reasons employees don't report misconduct incidents is the fear of retaliation. Listen, when I mentioned to my lawyer, I said it at the wrong time. I should have went out to court, waited till I went out to court. But I was in the bullpen, the lawyer came, oh, don't worry, he'll beat it on appeal. He said that before the trial ended, He already knew the outcome. The state's attorney was sitting there laughing. And I was complaining about violating the rule. I wasn't allowed discovery. State's attorney, oh, that's between you and your lawyer. The judge just sat there and didn't say nothing. And if I tried to say something, I was warned. And then, then I'm noticing the court reporter not typing out everything. So it was just a whole setup. And so after I was in the bullpen, the lawyer came back and said, don't worry, we'll beat it in appeal. And I says, oh, man, what the hell is this? I started yelling. I said, watch when I get out there. See what I say. So what could you possibly say that will make the judge change your mind? As I said, reporting misconduct is mandatory in both the rules of professional Code of Judicial Conduct. He ran out there, told the judge, the state's attorney. Sheriffs didn't take me back into the courtroom. They took me to Cook County Jail, beat me, and left me for dead. So, but that was back in the 90s. I didn't have the internet, and I didn't have, even though I knew this stuff, you know how expensive these books are? You know how hard it would be for me to carry all these laws around they're breaking. But see, now I have an advantage. I could show you on the internet, and you have the advantage I didn't have. Dewey Decimal System was my best friend back in the day because I loved to read, but it can be difficult. But now it's easy for you, okay? That's all I'm trying to do. What is the rule 8.3 required reporting? Rule 8.3 in the California Rules of Professional Conduct is a significant step towards promoting transparency and accountability. Okay, so you want transparency, you want accountability. Look up the rules of professional conduct. Just in your search engine, rules of professional conduct, and for your state it should come up. Some people say the ABA comes up first, feel free to use that. But first use your state, and if you see some things that doesn't seem right, something may be missing, refer to the ABA rules of professional conduct, and if one of those rules are missing from your state, all you have to do is, put it in and they say, well, we don't use that. Well, you took it out because that was in the interest of the bar, not in the public interest. Preamble clearly states everything must be done in the public interest and not the interest of the bar or parochial interest. You remove that because it was in the interest of the bar. You removing that violates federal law. Any law repugnant to U.S. Constitution is null and void. Okay, so that's pretty easy, don't you think? Can you get fired for misconduct? Types of dismissals by law, Employment Rights Act, following of potential reasons dismiss someone fairly. Misconduct when the employee has done something that is inappropriate or not acceptable. Capability when the employer is not able to do the job or does not have the right qualifications. So not they're referring to all employers. Okay. Do all colleagues have an obligation to report? Colleagues are obligated to report any non-compliance with the regulations, policies to promote ethical behavior and accountability in organizations. This requirement allows the legal responsibilities and ensures the protection of individuals who report misconduct. I've been reporting misconduct since the 80s, and I've been ignored. I only got an answer one time after multiple times of reporting to the ARDC, Attorney Registration Disciplinary Commission Conduct. Got one reply, and they said they investigated and found nobody did anything wrong. And I started out on that one, lambasting the state's attorney first. And it was clear and evident that the state's attorney violated 3.8 special rules of a prosecutor in its entirety. Assisted my attorney in withholding discovery from me. The judge said nothing about anybody holding discovery from me. Everybody's legally obligated to see to it that you get discovery. And my lawyer said, no, you got to pay for it. And I paid for it. And you didn't pay the state's attorney for it. The state's attorney's legally obligated to turn over what she gives you a copy of everything they have to you. And you're legally obligated to give it to them. And don't forget, expediting litigation is required, and it'd be diligent, incompetent if you didn't wait till trial court level to do it. You were supposed to do this in the very beginning, before this trial even started, before the first appearance. It's called expediting litigation. But see, lawyers have always had a problem with me stating my constitutional right to effective assistance of counsel. And any violations of the rules of professional conduct is ineffective assistance of counsel, and they took an oath to be effective assistance of counsel, which is a violation of your constitutional rights. Did you know anybody that violates the oath, any oath of office, the legal requirements for retaliation, discipline? Look it up. What are the consequences for violating the oath? It will say fines, removal from public service, meaning disbarred, removal from the bench, and incarceration. See, that's why nobody's telling you. This is why nobody's doing this. But if you look it up on the net, just look up conspiracy to deprive rights under the color of the law. And that's what I'm explaining to you here. Nobody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Who is responsible for speaking up about misconduct? Final answer: everyone who witnesses or suspects misconduct has a responsibility to report it within a team. But see, not just in the team, not just anybody in the courtroom. It's the legal obligation of every attorney and every judge to report misconduct. It does not limit to the state in which they practice. It does not limit them because they're, okay, I'm a criminal court lawyer, but this is in civil court. I'm in state court, this is federal court. It doesn't limit that. There's no limit. You are legally obligated, any and every attorney, to report misconduct at any turn in any court. As long as they have any knowledge of misconduct, reporting misconduct is mandatory. So look it up. It's quite easy. Who are employees most likely to report observed misconduct to? Past GBES findings have constantly shown that employees are most likely to report suspected or observed misconduct when a helpline is available. However, they prefer to report to an individual whom they know. What is the 5% reporting rule? If your company has registered a class of its... okay. Can my employer sue me for misconduct? You can sue your lawyer for misconduct. The short answer is yes. In fact, there are several reasons an employer can sue an employee, from overall negligence to misuse of the company resources. Business owners have options and resources. Well, does misconduct go on your trial if you're a lawyer, or on your record if you're a lawyer or judge? Yeah, you broke the law, you got fines, you got disbarred, you got removed from the bench, and you went to prison. Well, that's the way it's supposed to work. But how many judges and lawyers have you ever known to report each other and demand that they go to prison for violating the rules or the codes? You know, thus the conspiracy to deprive rights under the color of law. Okay, how to handle misconduct in the workplace. What are employees afraid to speak up at work? Okay, so this is others for for people in general about misconduct in the workplace. Okay, reporting misconduct is mandatory. And see, that's what you're dealing with. Nobody's doing it. They are legally obligated to report misconduct. Failure to expedite litigation, diligence, competence, that's them not even asking for a quick and speedy trial is ineffective assistance to counsel. They'll say, well, no, you didn't ask. Well, wait a minute, this is your job, but, and did you even know that you're not going to get a quick and speedy trial until you demand it? Did your lawyer tell you that, the state's attorney or the opposing party or the judge? See, so none of your constitutional rights, they say, that are guaranteed, aren't guaranteed because, they literally took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it. That's crazy. Look what's going on now. Remember I had a video I talked to you about the White House putsch? That was back when FDR was president, and Wall Street concocted a plan to overthrow the government, and they put General, Smedley in charge, and he was supposed to take some troops or whatever and march and take over Congress and remove FDR because, our friendly capitalist, Wall Street, I don't know if you know this, but the FDR years were called the New Deal years. They didn't, Wall Street didn't like this thing about Social Security, and they did everything they could to stop it. All you have to do is go to the internet, go to YouTube. They got some videos about the FDR years, and it was the Republicans. I'm not into I'm not a political devotee, but I do speak on the laws they break. So anyways, the Republicans decided, no, we don't want Social Security. They didn't like the ideas of unions. They didn't like the idea of unemployment. And, FDR was doing what he thought was in the public interest, and he did. And not only brought our country, the United States, off its hands and knees and back on its feet. But because of what he did here, help the world recoup. Okay, so the New Deal didn't just work good for the United States, it worked for the rest of the world to help the economy get up and going, And ever since then, corporations have been trying to pull that back. You know what they used to call unions, Social Security, unemployment? They called it socialism. And they said that's going to lead to communism, and we're going to be a communist country because of FDR. And ever since, they even tried to use McCarthyism, which is kind of what's going on now, to hunt down their political foes, and that's what actually Mussolini, El Duce, did when he maintained control. And actually Hitler looked to El Duce's methods, and that's what he did in Germany, So, I mean, some people say they read Mein Kampf. They should read where he stole all his ideas from El Duce. Okay, but like I said, Rule 8.3, reporting professional misconduct, is mandatory for every lawyer and judge. So when you go over the rules of professional conduct, like my dad did, you will get upset. He yelled, he screamed, that's not happening, this is not happening, he didn't do this, nobody told me that, I didn't see this, I didn't see that. How can I give informed consent without knowing any of this? And that's probably how you're going to wind up. Okay, and I did have a lawyer drop the case. It was a casual conversation over the phone. He didn't know who I was. I didn't lead him on. And when he questioned me as to who I was, I just said the opposing party. And in fairness to the opposing party and counsel, I was legally required to give Mr. Casares, which was my dad, to give Mr. Casares discovery. He says, no, that goes to me first. No, the law clearly states in opposing, fairness to the opposing party and counsel, you are assistants of counsel. You are to assist him in his endeavors. But yeah, they don't do that. Okay, there's let's see, where is it? There's something else, because people ask me these questions. Okay, so here it is. Is it legal for lawyers to lie? Which they do. If they're not telling you about the rule of professional conduct, I've always considered that lying, but according to the ethics committee, them not telling you anything is not lying. It's just them not saying anything. But how can you give informed consent without reasonable knowledge to make an informed decision? Everyone knows that lawyers are not allowed to lie. Okay, not allowed to lie to clients, courts, or third parties. But once you get beyond deliberate false statements, the scope of obligations and truth and integrity become less clear. When is it okay for a lawyer to lie? American Bar Association. When is it okay for your lawyer to lie? Everyone knows lawyers are not allowed to lie to clients, courts, or third parties, but once you get beyond deliberate false statements, the scope of obligations to truth and integrity become less clear. What about reckless and negligent statements that are false? What about misleading statements and implications the extent of your knowledge? What about omissions? When is it okay to exploit someone else's misapprehension, and when do you have to correct it? Those and other questions were focused in a recent ABA-sponsored wiener bar. A bunch of wieners at the bar. I mean, if they went over the rules of professional conduct and the Code of Judicial Conduct with you and explained that these are the legal obligations of all lawyers and judges, And this is the definition of due process. This is how you get a fair trial. This is the job descriptions of all lawyers and judges that they are all legally obligated to. They took an oath to do this. The oath is unbinding, non-negotiable. You can't change it. You're literally violating the law, violating the oath. Violating the oath requires fines, removal from public service, and incarceration. Okay, so I'm just trying to, do lawyers get punished for lying? Can you sue a lawyer for misleading you? Yes. What is the common complaint against lawyers? Okay, so there's a lot of things you need to look up. But I just asked a question somebody said on the internet about, is it legal for lawyers to lie? Everyone knows that lawyers are not allowed to lie. No, everybody doesn't know. Did you know that? Okay, so no, I'm guaranteeing you did. Okay, 5 ethic rules you may not know. Rules of professional conduct for lawyers. Model rules of professional conduct. Code of ethics for lawyers. ABA rules of professional conduct. Attorney ethic violations examples, modern rules of professional conduct. So you violate the rules, you violate the ethic. Any ethics, any violations of the rules of professional conduct is a total violation of ethics. Examples for ethics violations. Examples for unethical attorney behavior, including false statements to clients or the court, neglecting client cases by missing deadlines. Remember, I told you about expediting litigation. It will be diligent. And I did mention a quick and speedy trial. You're guaranteed a quick and speedy trial, but most lawyers will tell you, no, that's only in a criminal case. But if you read the rules of professional conduct, all lawyers are required to be diligent in expediting litigation, yada, yada, yada. You'll find it all there. Neglecting client cases by missing deadlines, failing to communicate properly. Remember, communication is mandatory for lawyers with you. Failing to disclose conflicts of interest, overbilling clients, engaging in fraudulent practices, and intentionally misleading opposing counsel with false information. That happens all the time. Key points about ethical attorney behavior, unethical attorney behavior: dishonesty, lying to clients, the court, opposing counsel about material facts in the case, conflict of interest, representing clients with opposing interests without full disclosure or consent, neglect, failing to properly represent a client by missing deadlines, not returning calls, or not adequately researching a case. You know, lawyers, I don't know if you know this, but all lawyers, judges, cops, a detective that's investigating a case, any case, not just criminal cases, a detective investigating a case, lawyers, judges are legally required to investigate the case to see if there's probable cause to proceed. Okay? Fees, misconduct, charging excessive fees, they do that. Inflating bill hours, that's a constant. Or not providing clear fee information, and that's a definite. They do that. Okay, misrepresentation, making false or misleading statements about the law or a client's case. Seriously, if you have a lawyer and you even try to talk to them about the rules of professional conduct, they will quit on you. They will get mad. What's wrong? Don't you trust me? But why would you trust anybody and hire anybody that's not going to discuss with you their legal obligations to you? Not just theirs, the court, the judges, all lawyers, no matter what court you're in. Inappropriate communication, using abusive or threatening language with clients or opposing counsel, withholding evidence, and intentionally failing to disclose exculpatory evidence to the court. Remember 3.8 of the Rules of Professional Conduct, Rules of Prosecutor, it clearly states that, any state's attorney, any prosecutor, no matter what court is aware of exculpatory evidence, it is their lawful duty to exonerate that person. Okay, read Rule 3.8 A. Special rules of the prosecutor. Intentionally failing to disclose exculpatory evidence to the court. In my complaint to the ARDC, I said the state's attorney didn't disclose exculpatory evidence. Neither did my lawyer. She's legally obligated to disclose exculpatory evidence. She's legally obligated, he or she is legally obligated to see to it that I get discovery. They used to call it discovery effects, now it's discovery, but I'm entitled to discovery. Everybody in that courtroom is legally obligated to see to I get discovery, but they don't, and they'll lie to you about that. Okay. Improper witness influence, attempting to improper influence a witness in testimony. State's attorney's phenomenal for doing that. I tried to help some people, but they didn't want to listen. Okay, gentleman got arrested. Him and his girlfriend had some type of squabble. Turned out she got mad. She called the police. Police arrested him, and then she told the police it wasn't that serious. She embellished a little bit. She just wanted him to spend a night in jail just to teach him a lesson. You know, cops arrested him. Well, state's attorney didn't see it that way. They upped the charges, and he had to get a lawyer, and then his lawyer didn't go over the rules of professional conduct with him, and, you know, and the woman that had him arrested told the state's attorney that she wasn't going to testify because of the embellishment, and they told her if she didn't go to court and testify and give a certain testimony, they actually told her what to testify to and told her what to say and what not to say. So, attempting to improperly influence a witness to test a witness's testimony. But not only did they influence her testimony, they told her if she didn't go to court and testify against the young man, that she would go to jail for making a false complaint. They didn't even mention to her that she could drop the complaint, and then when I did, she wanted to drop the complaint, and they said too late. The state picked it up. How is that in the public interest? You turn a lover's argument, and I have tried to help multiple people on that. The last one, this young guy, he was staying with his parents, his mother, and his stepfather. I think it was stepfather. One of them was a step-parent, but they got an argument over something. They went outside and got into a yelling contest, and somebody called the police, and the police came. They said, no big deal, it's just a squabble, family argument. The police escalated it, arrested the young man, and the state's attorney pushed it through court. And the parents said they weren't going to testify, so the state said they picked it up, and they were going to subpoena the parents to testify against them. Told the parents if they didn't testify to, what the police report said, which was totally fabricated by the police, that they were going to arrest them for lying to the police. But they didn't lie to the police. The police lied on the police report. And, there was no, these days cops have the video cams, body cams, but seriously? And the kid was upset because when he left court, after they told him they were going to force the parents to testify, and if they don't testify, they'll go to jail because the state picked up the case, they just bullied him. And so parents wouldn't go to jail. He signed a paper saying, I committed a felony. Yes, I was loud and I was yelling at my mom and dad. But they didn't say that. They just gave him the charge, and he signed the paper away. So now he's got a felony. Why? He simply got a felony because of a simple thing called a conspiracy to deprive rights under the color of law. I mean, his public defender didn't ask for a probable cause hearing, and I told you that's mandatory, but lawyers and judges don't like that. Judges get really upset over that, and then it goes on to a preliminary hearing, which is going. No, it could have been disposed of in the discovery or in a probable cause hearing. It never should have went further than a probable cause hearing. Okay. Conflicts of interest, fees. But see, these are just simple questions I asked. Ethics violations. Okay, let me go over here. Is it illegal for a lawyer to lie? Let's see what this one is. People ask these questions on the internet. I don't even get involved in the conversation. I just put that question in my search engine, and I come with, is it unethical for lawyers to lie? When is it okay for a lawyer to lie? Never. Attorneys cannot lie to the judge on your behalf. Okay. On your behalf, their behalf, anybody's behalf. Actually, if you want a lawyer to go in court and lie for you, your lawyer is legally required to tell you he can't do that. And if your lawyer goes into court and lie for you, which lawyers often do, the more money you put on the scale, the more laws they will break in a court of law. And like I said, and then usually I can't tell you for sure, but I mean, why would the judge allow the lawyer to violate so many rules of professional conduct? And why is the opposing party? What is unethical for a lawyer? Attorney misconduct may include conflict of interest, overbilling, false, misleading statements, knowing, pursuing frivolous and merit lawsuits. Slap suits. Slap suits are always thrown out because of that reason. Frivolous and meritless lawsuits. They can't prove a damn thing. But see, if a rich guy decides to sue you, I was talking about another report, some coal guy owes a coal company, and they were really just tearing up the neighborhood, pollution everywhere, which is a violation of the public trust doctrine. Every public servant is required to protect the public trust doctrine, which is the air, the land, the sea, the rivers. Remember the courts, the judicial system, fiduciary, politics, the political system. That's all part of the public trust. Okay, so there's a lot of unethical things going on. Do lawyers get punished for lying? Not unless you report them, because they're not going to report each other. If an attorney uses perjured testimony knowingly, there may be severe consequences. According to the canons of professional ethics of the American Bar Association, the attorney could be disciplined or disbarred. And that's violating the oath they took, to the Constitution. So that also requires fines. I say asset forfeiture, take everything. And fines, incarceration, and disbarred. But they're not even mentioning the incarceration mandatory in here for violating. But I'm combining a whole bunch of laws together. But basically, violating the oath. Just look it up. Consequences for violating the oath. It says fines, removal from said public service, and incarceration. And if somebody dies because of that, they can get the death penalty. Do lawyers get punished for lying? Can you sue a lawyer for misleading you? Yes. Okay. You can sue a doctor for lying to you. You can sue a doctor for not giving you informed consent. I'm hoping you viewed my video on informed consent. That's not just for doctors, that's for lawyers too, okay? Do lawyers have to be truthful? Yes, at every stance. Being honest means not telling lies. Being truthful means making know all the full truth of a matter. See, I mean, and you know, you've seen it yourself. Some of you's witnessed it in court. Lawyers lying. And who does anything about that? What are lawyers not allowed to do? Lawyers should not use law's procedure. Lawyers should only use law's procedure only for a legitimate purpose and not to harass or intimidate others. It says that in the preamble of the rules of professional conduct. A lawyer should demonstrate respect for the legal system and for those who serve it, including judges, other lawyers, and public officials. So remember, you can sue public officials for ethical violations. Anybody from your alderman to the president. And people say, "Oh no, you can't sue the president." I posted a video about that not being the whole truth. Okay, there's some laws that say you can't. The DOJ says they don't. They won't indict a sitting president. It's custom. But that violates the rule of law. The rule of law clearly states the law applies equal to everybody, nobody above the law. Not even the king or our president. Our president is king right now. I mean, he's not king, but you see how he's acting. He's just going around breaking the law, violating the Constitution, violating his oath, the oath of public service. How about what happened January 6th? Look up high treason. Look up high treason. Just read up high treason. See what it says. Okay? I'm just giving you the law. Okay? I'm using Trump as an example because he's president. When Bill Clinton was president, oh man, I did not like that guy. And I blasted him all the time about the laws he broke. Barack Obama. When I tried to talk to him about the basic obligations of public service, because I went to see him, I got fired from my job from trying to unionize, and they fired me for getting hurt at work, and I became handicapped. But see, I got hurt at work because I was overworked. Too much lifting, and it ruined all my joints. But the National Labor Relations Board wasn't going to do anything. I gave them a copy of the company policy. It says all Hercules employees. So they said they went back and talked to Hercules, the place I worked for, and they said, no, that's only for office employees. So I told the National Labor Board, it clearly states all Hercules employees. They said, no, but the people in the office said that's just for office employees. I said, you're literally telling me they don't have to live up to their company policy. Well, see, it's not like a law or anything. So they literally told me because it's not a union contract, nobody has to enforce that. Nobody's going to enforce that, But you can see that what I told you before, that you can actually sue. But lawyers don't like that. And if you're a poor guy like me, your lawyer is going to easily sell you out for some obnoxious reason like mine did. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. And I proved it, but the judge didn't want to hear it. The judge didn't care. Started chastising me for violating the rules of professional conduct. He didn't say it exactly, but he said he was tired of this case because it took too long. Well, there was no diligence in expediting litigation, which was completely incompetent. So he was literally calling me incompetent for failure to be diligent expediting litigation, and he communicated that briskly. He was yelling at me, he was. But see, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not obligated to do that. And I was complaining because my lawyer didn't do any of that. And the judge said if I don't take the settlement, which I got lowballed by my own lawyer, and he didn't put in for disability. That was just for 2 torn rotator cuffs. I couldn't use either arms until after the surgeries. And the doctor said there's no way I could go back to that job. But he gave me a return to work notice. And he said they know they can't, they got to find something else for you to do. When I went back to work, gave him the return work notice, the general manager physically assaulted me, knowing I couldn't defend myself. He says, get the hell out of here. You can't even do your job. You can't use your arms. You had them surgically repaired. You can't even walk right. Your knees are fucked up. Your ankles, your whole body's fucked up. You think you're going to come back here? Fuck you. Get the fuck out of here. If you can't do the job you used to do, get the fuck out of here. National Labor Relations Board wasn't behind me. My lawyer wasn't behind me. The judge definitely worked against me. And you know how workman's comp insurers are. They don't like to admit to nothing. So I went to Barack Obama's office before he was president. And he told me, yeah, the National Labor Relations Board has always been management friendly. I said, well, wait a minute, that's a violation of basic obligations of public service. Excuse me? I said, that's a violation of the basic obligations of public service. As a matter of fact, right now, wait, excuse me. Somebody was standing behind me, and they said something to me. Says, I got to go. Listen, I'm going to have my staff make an appointment for you to return. And when you come back, we're going to discuss this thoroughly. And on that return appointment, I was just as worried talking to him as I was talking to the FBI, so I took some people with me. I didn't want to just disappear. And he wasn't there, and, several of his lovely staff members came out and gave me this pretty letter saying that they got in touch with the National Labor Relations Board and they'll speak with them. But wait a minute, I talked to Obama about that they're violating the basic oath of public service, and any public servant, they're not there to serve the politicians. They're there to serve the public interest. They are legally required to serve the public interest. The National Labor Relations Board is part of the public trust. They are supposed to be apolitical, but they're not. And if you watch the news about the people that are appointed to oversee the National Labor Relations Board, they say, oh, well, he's a conservative judge or lawyer, or he's a liberal. It's supposed to be apolitical. You see, so I'm, just telling you about how the way the system works and how it's supposed to work and how it ain't working. Okay, that's all, people. Okay, here's this one. Remember I was telling you about that conspiracy against rights under the color of law. Conspiracy against rights under the color of law is a federal crime that prohibits conspiring to deprive citizens of their constitutional rights, defined in Title 18, Section 241 of the United States Code. Examples of conspiracy against rights: ballot stuffing, disenfranchisement, destruction of ballot, voter fraud, and interference with accurate counting of votes. But they failed to mention the big one that I mentioned, the conspiracy to deprive rights, your constitutional rights. If you want to make it easy, refer to the 14th Amendment, the Due Process Clause, okay? And it'll tell you how due process is supposed to work out, and you'll see that it didn't. So not only did it violate your 4th, 5th, even your freedom of speech, you have no right to speak in a court. The judge won't let you. The judge will lock your ass up, cite you for contempt of court. But if you read the Code of Judicial Conduct, it'll tell you contrary, that the judge is legally obligated to listen to you, let you speak out, especially when you cite your lawyer for ineffective assistance of counsel. You could literally walk into, if you got a court case going on right now, when you walk into court, don't talk to your lawyer, because you're probably absent a quick and speedy trial because of his negligence to be diligent in expediting litigation, et cetera, et cetera. So not only, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth Amendment, 14th, any right you have to due process. Okay, but this is common. This is common in every court of law. Okay. And if you look up where to file a complaint for a conspiracy to deprive rights under the color of law, it'll take you to Department of Justice and the FBI and quite a few other government agencies that have complaints to file a conspiracy to deprive rights, or it's called a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. It's just, look it up. A complaint, where to file a complaint for a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. It'll give you a host of links, just like I'm doing here. I'm just doing my best to see to it that all your public servants, do their job. Nobody abides by the oath. Nobody lives up to the basic obligations of public service. Let's see if I have that in my, let's see. I open a few tabs and talk. Here it is. The basic obligations of public service is to put the needs of the public before personal gain. This includes following the law, being ethical, and avoiding conflicts of interest, responsibilities, loyalty. Put the Constitution, laws, and ethical principles above personal gain. This is for everybody in public service, yes, including El Presidente. All right. So, yeah, put responsibilities, loyalty, put the Constitution, laws, and ethical principles, the Code of Ethics, above personal gain. What's going on right now with Ukraine, that's for personal gain, financial interests, avoid financial interests that conflict with your duties. And that ain't happening. Don't accept gifts from people who want something from your agency, which is a constant with the U.S. Supreme Court. And they are not, they don't have qualified immunity from basic obligations of public service. And I even did a video of that from the DOJ website. I was on the DOJ website, and I went over the basic obligations of public service on their website. Outside work. Don't take on outside work that conflicts with your government duties. Waste and corruption. Report waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption to appropriate authorities. Public trust. Safeguard the public's trust in government by following ethical guidelines and avoiding the appearance of corruption. So just the appearance of corruption is a violation of basic obligations of public service. You can't even appear. So it's, somebody needs to get me one of them free seats on that, open seats on that jet so I can go do some fishing in Alaska. Well, you gotta bid for that or what? Okay, respect. Treat the public and other public servants with respect and courtesy. Even says that in the Code of Judicial Conduct in the preamble, as well as in the Rule of Professional Conduct. Seriously, how much respect do you get from your public servants? Huh? I seen, who was it, Ron DeSantis yelling at the people they voted, and yelling at them to take off their masks. You see how snotty he gets? The purpose, the basic obligation of public service is to ensure the citizens can trust the integrity of the government. Laws help public officials avoid conflicts between other public duties and their personal interest. Okay, so like I told you, when you look this up, there's the U.S. Department of Interior has the basic obligations of public service. Okay, Legal Information Institute. Remember I told you when I post stuff, I used to just post the links for people to read, and nobody would actually look at it. So I just started reading them from them, and people are kind of like it, and they tell me they don't understand the law. How could you not understand what I just read to you? And it probably sounded a lot better if you read it to yourself, considering the fact almost everybody likes to hear themselves talk. Okay, but I'm not trying to. I'm going to calling out some people publicly, and I seriously need everybody, as many people as possible, to understand what I'm doing. Because see, sometimes when I talk, people think I'm just using, it's just a conversation, but the conversation I'm having is combining a lot of legal terms, and to most people it seems like a casual conversation, but it's not. When I talk about the public interest, when I mention candor towards a tribunal, which is mandatory, that's a rule in the rules of professional conduct, and when I mention competence, communication, I got an argument with a public defender, and I turned around and I said, yeah, wouldn't it be competent to, be diligent in expediting litigation? I mean, not just on your behalf, but the state's attorney. I mean, you're not doing that, any of that. That's not competent. If you're not competent, what does that make you? And I'm looking at these people outside, in the hallway in the court. And what does that make him, right? If he's not competent, that makes him incompetent. And he stormed off, cussing me out, calling me names. But see, I was trying to go over a lot of this stuff with people in the courtroom, but I don't have the time, and they, this is usually 10, 15, 20 minutes. You know how hard it is, how hard it is to go over the rules of professional conduct, Code of Judicial Conduct, basic obligations of public service, so many laws that are being broken. That's why I post so many things on legal reform. There's a whole lot of stuff you have to know. And I'm telling you for free. I could be like that lawyer. He said that he sues people because of crooked lawyers, judges, politicians, employers. But see, because he's literally suing them for breaking the law, but he's not reporting them. Remember, he sued these lawyers and judges and got money from them for his clients. But the rules of professional conduct clearly state reporting misconduct is mandatory, and he didn't report anybody for violating the rules or the codes. That's mandatory. Failure to report misconduct is misconduct. That's a violation of the oath, which is mandatory fines, removal from public service, and incarceration, which clearly shows any and all monies he made or anybody made violating the law are ill-gotten gains and can be confiscated using the RICO Act and asserting asset forfeiture. I mean, legally. I mean, if somebody was actually going by the law. All right, people, let me get on to another one really quick. I'm trying to throw in much as possible. And okay, I told you about informed consent, right? Informed consent in medical practice refers to the process where a patient voluntarily agrees to undergo a medical procedure, receiving all necessary information, understanding the potential risk, benefits, and alternatives. Disclosure of information. Okay, people, remember I said this is for lawyers as well as doctors. Okay. And if you look it up and you keep reading down, it'll say that. AMA code, informed consent. So, you may want to file with the American Bar Association besides hiring an attorney for medical malpractice. Actually, if you sign a complaint with the American Medical Association, then they will go after the doctor first, and then you could just go to the doctor. Hey, you want me to sue you? You know you're not going to win. All I have to do is ask for summary judgment, and I'll get everything you got. So you want to settle out before I sue and ask for a summary judgment? And you could do that to a lawyer too, or a judge, Okay, definition informed consent. Okay, so I'm just showing you a lot of stuff that you should know or are supposed to know. Okay, also, an ethics committee, I told you about that, is a group of people who review, addresses ethical issues. Any violations, a violation of the rules or the code is an ethic violation. And anytime you violate a rule, one rule, you wind up violating multiple. Anytime you violate the codes, you wind up violating multiple. You violate the rules, you violate the codes, you violate the codes, you violate the rules, you violate the rules or the codes, you violate the Constitution. I mean, it's people, once you really get into this, it'll take the domino effect, Now that lawyer that said he sued all these lawyers and judges and politicians for their criminal activities, for the conspiracy to deprive rights under the color of law. He was legally obligated to report all these people for that conspiracy, for violating the rules and the codes and ethics and, basic obligations of public service. He didn't do that. He's legally obligated to. Man. But like I said, I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this for just getting it right. I was talking to a gentleman when I was out last shopping, and I was going over this with him, and he said I made it sound pretty easy. So he looked up my page. He's following legal reform, and he's going to go through it. And I think he said he had medical issues. But remember, ethics committee is not just for lawyers, it's for doctors as well. Okay, you can speak with the American Medical Association or the American Bar Association on that. Okay, healthcare. So ethics committees. Let's see, I talked about that. What's this? When can you technically sue a public servant for violating oath of office? So they like to claim qualified immunity. So if you go through this, can a citizen sue an elected official for violating his or her oath? I already told you can. I showed you, but is it possible to sue a city, county, or state for violating? Yes, if it's the government lawmakers, government agencies. See, so I'm not opening all these right now, but I'm just showing you that you're not being told the entire truth about this qualified immunity, and you can't sue. Is there a penalty for violating the oath of office? Fourth, federal law 18 U.S. 1980 provides penalties for violation of oath of office described in which includes removal from office, confinement, or a fine. Confinement means incarceration. Remedial and enforceability measures. Okay, so it's in the public interest that everybody go to jail for depriving you of your constitutional rights under the color of law, all right? That should be a lifetime sentence. But see, they put minimal sentences on this. Not only don't they tell on each other, in case somebody does, they made it a law that they go to jail 2, 3, 4 years. But remember, if you read it in its entirety, if death is caused, they can get the death penalty. Okay, and that's in I've done a lot of videos, posted a lot of posts, but there's a lot of stuff you really need to know. Are oaths legally binding? Yes. Yes, oaths can be legally binding. Oaths are solemn declarations and are legally binding and can leave serious consequences if broken. I mean, I've seen governors violate the oath. Congress, you see what's going on in Congress? They are legally obligated to do what's in the public interest. Are they doing it? No. They aren't doing it. You know, they're doing what's in their personal interest. Now, if you watch the video from when I was going over the basic obligations of public service off the DOJ website, there's a lot of things public servants, like in Congress, do that's illegal. You know, not just taking bribes, but it actually tells you about how lobbying is illegal, shadow lobbying. You know, they can't make promises. Like I told you in here, they can't say, hey, I'll do this for you if later on you do that. Like, let's say you give somebody in my family a job, you know, give me a job after I leave. You know, a lot of people, when they leave a political office, they go into lobbying. But if you read from the DOJ website, basic obligations of public service and what, you know, I already did a video on that. Okay, so it's on my page, Legal Reform. It's also on my YouTube channel. It's called The Vent. I'm known as Mario 1, 619. 619, that's just, I'm into wrestling, and I'm Mexican. And there's this Mexican wrestler called Rey Mysterio, and he does this move, 619. And he's a little guy, and he's taking on some of the biggest people. You know. And he's won the championship, and he does this move, 619. And that's like a double kick swing through the ropes right to the mush. You know. It's, I honor it. I call it the Cinco de Mayo myself, you know. If anybody's familiar with the history of the Cinco de Mayo, is where the little guy took on the big guy and won. France thought this little Mexican town was going to lose. They wanted to come in there and they needed food, so they were going to take, you know, all their, you know, food supplies. You know, they were going to take their, you know, their livestocks and, you know, just pillage the whole town. The French army was, because, you know, they needed to eat. And they needed stuff to drink. And so they said, well, you know, these are just Mexicans. Who cares? Well, the Mexicans that lived there did. And they took up arms and they fought a battle that they were supposed to lose in a matter of hours. So it went from a matter of losing it to a matter of hours. The French saying, hey, it'll be a matter of days. And when it was all said and done, Emperor Maximilian, who was put there by, what was that little guy's name? Napoleon Bonaparte? Yeah, he had to go back to France and say, hey, you know, Mexicans chased us out on the 5th of May. Okay, so, you know, to a lot of people I seen on the internet, they got mad because I called them racist. They think the Cinco de Mayo is a jar of mayonnaise in a sink. No, Cinco de Mayo is a pivotal time, not just in Mexican history, but in history, where the underdog won. Where the like so what Ukraine is going through now. They were supposed to lose in a matter of what, hours? A couple of weeks, a couple of months. Here it is, 3 going on 4 years. You know, I'm telling you, as a Chicano, you know, I not just love history, you know, American history, U.S. history. Because American history is, you know, Canada, United States, Mexico, Portugal. I mean, not Portugal, Brazil. Sorry, I just said Portugal because the Brazilians speak Portuguese. A lot of people used to think that Brazilians spoke Spanish. I'm like, no, they speak Portuguese, and had to explain a lot about the history. But, you know, I call it American history, the Cinco de Mayo, because, well, it was in Mexico, on the continent of the United States. And plus, it's part of world history when it teaches you when the little guy stands up for the rule of law. That's why Mexico had it in their constitution, no slavery, and that's why the Mexican-American War started, because the they opened their borders, they had open borders. Yeah, come on in, just obey our laws, get a job, vote. And by the way, no slaves. So people were coming, but eventually they started going back to, the United States, and bringing what they had there to Texas. And, they brought their slaves, and, because they wanted to start growing cotton, I think tobacco or whatever in Texas. And they didn't want to pay any Mexicans to work for them. They had slaves. They said, we got free labor. So they brought their free labor, and, the Mexican government said, no, it's against our laws. And people in Texas said, well, we want to change that. We want to change that. When Mexico the slavery was against the law, because let's just say historically, under the rule of Maximilian, Mexico was a nation of slaves. Everything they did, everything they worked for, dug up, whatever, everything in the public trust went to Maximilian, and he split some, with the emperor, which was Bonaparte. When it comes to imperialism, everybody gets a taste. Sounds like a mob, right? But either way, people, I hope I got enough points across to you on this. Is which president did not use the Bible to take the oath? Thomas Jefferson, Calvin Coolidge did not use the Bible in oath-taking ceremonies. Theodore Roosevelt did not use the Bible when taking the oath in 1901, nor did John Quincy Adams, who swore on a book of law with the intention that he was swearing on the Constitution. Lyndon B. Johnson, But see, to me, the Constitution means a whole lot. It's what this is what this country was supposed to be built on. These are your rights, not just your constitutional rights. It's not just the Bill of Rights, dude. It's not simply human rights. Most importantly, as a United States citizen, it's your birthrights. And you've been denied your birthright since birth. Since the birth of this nation, we've been living with a conspiracy to deprive rights under color of law. When the Declaration of Independence was written, it drove people from all around the world here for religious freedom, taxation with representation, with proper representation. Right now, our taxation representation is much more than nefarious, because it works for the needs of the few, not the needs of the many. And the IRS is in the public trust doctrine. It belongs to the public. It's part of the public trust. And their job is to do what's in the public interest, to maintain the public trust. But they're not the ones that make the tax laws. That's Congress, all right? So you're going to have to get on Congress about reworking these tax laws. They're supposed to do what's in the public interest, okay? And all the money in the public interest that goes into the public interest, into the public trust, collected tax dollars, are supposed to be for the public interest. Like infrastructure, railways, highways, sea lanes, it's supposed to have built up our military, gave us a military, our tax structure, gave us our court buildings. That's the public trust. Can you understand? This is all the public trust. It belongs to the public. And I'm really sick and tired of public servants taking advantage of the public. People, my people, we the people. I've been at this a very long time. I hope you'll join me. People, the only thing I'm trying to do is finish what the forefathers started. In a nation of laws, in a country where it is said every man is endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's not happening. That's all I want to do, make it happen. And excuse me if I start a little preachy when I talk to law, but I used to preach, the Bible, religion. I didn't do so good at that, but I do pretty good at this, And I don't know if anybody noticed, if you ever listen to Martin Luther King speeches, I'm just kind of picking up where he left off. I don't know if you listen to his speeches, but Martin Luther King, every time he gave a speech, he was talking about the law, constitutional law. He was asserting that state laws are being made that violate U.S. constitutional law, and any state law that violates constitutional law, the U.S. Constitution, is null and void. It's any law repugnant to the U.S. Constitution is null and void. It can't be. But you got voter suppression laws, but the U.S. Constitution says everybody has a right to law. In the beginning, not everybody, only rich people, landowners. And then people were complaining, hey, why should we listen to you and fight for you? Look what we fought for, and you're the only one that gets to vote and makes the laws. So it slowly started spreading because people were becoming educated. And that's the problem now. People aren't as educated as they should be, just like back then when the Constitution was written and the Declaration of Independence was written. And I even explained to people that emancipation, and it's in the history, all you got to do is go to Valley Forge and study the encampment. I went to Wikipedia, looked it up, scrolled down to the encampment, and it clearly tells you who was there. And they were given emancipation to fight. The slaves were given emancipation, so they could fight against the British, because the British gave their slaves emancipation to fight against the colonial army, because it was cheaper than bringing in more British soldiers. Plus they were fighting all around the world anyways, trying to keep their colonialism going, that English only, Christian only thing, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant thing. And so it was cheaper and quicker just to offer the slaves emancipation. The British did that first, and the colonists said, well, hey, because, at Valley Forge in the encampment, there was freed black men, slaves, black slaves. I told you about that. People from Germany, Russia, Poland, various languages, a multitude of different languages there, a multitude of different races, a multitude of different immigrants, a variation of different Native American tribes that didn't even speak the same languages. It talks about a whole lot of diversity. And the equity was emancipation. The inclusion was they had to include all the immigrants and the blacks and the natives, because not a whole lot of people wanted to fight. And you should have seen what the rich people, you should read about it, At Valley Forge, what they went through. The people, the proprietors of stores, they had foodstuffs, things the colonials needed to fight the British, but, they price gouged to where the colonial army couldn't afford, and their excuse was, hey, well, the British is paying more. They're actually buying up stuff they don't need, they know you need, they don't need, they're just buying up so you don't get it. Oh, why are you selling it? Well, because they pay more. Listen, when it comes to the wealthy, they have no care or respect for the citizenry of the countries in which they live in, because if something goes wrong, they can pick up and move to another country. That's why they don't have all their eggs in one basket. If you notice that they have their money stored around the world, and especially in these off-ramps, 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 in these off offshore accounts like the Cayman. Somebody was telling me about the Panama Papers. Now, you really got to ask yourself, how is that in the public interest? How is that legal? They say because of legal loopholes, but if the legal system did what they were supposed to, protect the public interest and maintain the public trust, there would be no such thing as legal loopholes. And if they abided by the oath of public service, let's just say there would be a lot less drama in politics. There would be a lot less court cases. The courtrooms wouldn't be overpacked, overfull. Lawyers wouldn't be complaining about they have too many. Public defenders wouldn't be complaining they're overworked, they have too many cases. But how can they have too many cases? They're literally kicking people to the curb where they fall into prison by, no probable cause hearing. Failure to expedite litigation, failure to be diligent. There's so many things you need to know. Okay. What is the oath? Government employees. The U.S. government oath of office is a promise to support and defend the Constitution, is a public commitment to serving the country. But see, I always took it literally because when I was a kid,